Yeah, yeah, got it. Sorry.
We need music, huh? We can just pretend.
I hear it in my head.
There you go. All day, right? Thank you for showing your face. And she disappears. That's okay. We have a few minutes before we get everybody on. Okay, well, 3 of our panelists are here. That's good.
It's a good start when the panelists are there, you know.
It's a good start. It helps. We're still a couple minutes away. Hi, Dean. Hi, Don. Hi, Dan. Wow. Dean,
Hi.
Don, Dan. That.
Dean
D's.
and done.
The 3Ds.
Ah, that was more clever than what I said.
There's a show on TV called Triple D.
Triple D. Oh man.
What channel's that?
Let's not.
Let's not go there. Cancel that comment. Oh, I thought my mute was on. I thought my mute was on.
I could probably still hear you from down the hall.
Diners, drive-ins, and dives.
Oh, okay, got it. Thank you, Dan. I forgot. I almost forgot my notebook, which I'm gonna need to probably want to take notes from you guys too. Okay, we'll wait another minute or two. I'm not sure if we sent out actually a reminder email. Did you guys get a reminder email today?
We did at 1 o'clock.
Oh, okay, good.
It went out at 1 hour before.
Thank you, Cheryl. Did that go to everybody, the whole board, or just our agents?
All 3 boards and our agents as well.
Okay, awesome.
We did not get a text though, just an email.
Yeah, that probably would have been a good idea, Chris. Thank you for. We will make that part of our regular marketing strategy for events.
Right.
So I just realized that I was on the panel. When I replied to the email, it was just as a participant, but I'm happy to be a panelist.
Well, there you go. We'll make a star out of you yet. Well, that's basically what the panelists are doing. I mean, it's participating, it's sharing your takeaways. So as long as you have some of those, that would be helpful. So I'm looking for, let's see, Jonathan, Aisha, Michelle texted me. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Cheryl, maybe you can reach out to Jonathan and Aisha.
Will do.
Thank you. Okay, welcome to our first ever Zoom version of a Golden Nuggets Mastermind. This is a practice that we like to do or implement when normally we would be attending these conferences, these large live conferences in either Austin, Texas, if it's Mega Camp, or Family Reunion, wherever it happens to be. And they're incredible conferences, and everybody who goes goes for multiple reasons. One is obviously the content and going to the general sessions where Gary Keller or Josh Team or people are talking about what's happening in the industry. There's industry updates, or they have a special guest, like this year was Keith Cunningham. And then breakout sessions. So if there's some particular area in your business that you want to focus on, that's another benefit to going, because you can pick the breakouts, which of course we were able to do that all digitally this year, which was a great experience. I mean, definitely different. Although my vote would be to have a live option and a digital option for future events. That way, actually more people could attend. Those that can't travel could still benefit from the content. And then those who can travel benefit from that and being there in person and networking. And as Dean and I talk about a lot, it's also what happens outside of when you're attending a session. It's a lot of that networking, which I know they had some networking and breakout events, which were meant to be more social. So I just asked, we put out an email to the people who attended to see if they were open to sharing their top takeaways. And so we do have a panel. That said, I would also like to open it up to anybody who's here to share as well their takeaways or comments. So we'll kind of go through the panel, and then we'll open it up to anybody else that wants to share. The goal for this session and these sessions are, you know, those of you who maybe attended certain breakouts or certain events through Mega Camp or didn't get to attend at all, that you can benefit from everybody else here and what they took away. And again, it's just golden nuggets that you're kind of, you know, it's like a cheat sheet. It's like Cliff Notes. You get to just take some of the good stuff that other people are sharing and then do that. And also I want those of you who are sharing to talk about how you're implementing these things in your business and whether you started that process, because I know sometimes you come back from these events or, you know, in this case, digitally, and you go, okay, here's the top things that I want to implement. This is my top 10 list. This is my top 3 list. And this is how I'm going to go about doing it. Or you could have already been doing it and, you know, share that as well. Anything that you think would be valuable for everybody would be great in general, and what was most valuable for you. So that said, we're just going to get started, and I'm going to go through the panelists and ask you guys to share. Let's start with your top 3 takeaways. Let's just go with your top 3 takeaways, ahas, things that really made you think about your business differently, or how you were going to approach your business differently. And anything around that you want to share, it would be a takeaway. And then if it helps us to understand why it was such a critical thing for you, that would be great as well. So I'm going to start with, I'm just looking to see if Aisha is here. Aisha, are you with us? Okay.
I just spoke to her. Pardon me, excuse me, Lisa.
Okay. Yep, sure.
She's not able to make it right now, and Jonathan should be signing on any moment.
Okay, cool. So we're going to start with Chris Hay. So Chris, what were your top 3 takeaways from the whole event, and share with us a little bit about, you know, why you attended, whatever they were that you attended, where you got that content.
Yeah, I mean, I attended basically because I'd never been to any of the camps or large meetings, and I just wanted to kind of see, what it all entailed. And, I actually, I started off more or less with the opening that Gary Keller did about the market update. And, the things that really resonated with me was the fact that the unemployment statistics and the number of unemployed in different industries was clearly related to the level of professionalism in those industries. So some of the industries were at 21%, but these were typically hourly type, services, retail and hospitality and leisure, that people were making $450 a month. A week. And, on the higher end, you have the finance world, some of the other, high tech, highly educated professions that, are 1,500 plus a week easily in income. And, they were experiencing like 4% unemployment, and the hourly people were, the people in those jobs were experiencing, anywhere from 10 to say 20% unemployment. And he said, obviously that's a clear relation to where the money is, and also to why the real estate market is so robust right now across the country, is the people that have the money are still employed, so they can continue to buy and, move out of the cities into the suburban areas. And again, it was a really neat correlation between unemployment and earnings. So that was one of the key things that I got. The other one was the unemployment numbers that differentiated between the age level of, the population. So, the age, 24 and under, 14% unemployment. 25 to 35, it was like 10% and only represented, 25% of all the homeowners, where the ones under 25 represented only about 4% of homeowners. And then 35 and up, had much lower unemployment and represented, 70+% of the home ownership. So again, everything kind of correlated either to earnings or to age, and obviously age is associated with earnings to some extent. So, and then the other key page that he talked about was just the fact that the cost of homes, even though the cost is rising in many markets, the cost of the home is actually equal or less, because the interest rates dropped from 3.6% now to whatever 2.9 or whatever the average is. So those key three dynamics were very kind of a quick overview of why the real estate market is doing what it's doing right now. And then he went on and talked about where he saw the potential risks, and where just in many things in that regard. And I can go on, but those, if you want me to go past those three that I talked about.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Just a follow-up question to that before we move on to the next person. And I'm sure, some of those things we're saying, the same information, we'll probably hear people that have some similar ones, and how they heard it, how they processed it. So the follow-up question to that would be based on what you just discussed, which was primarily a lot of the information regarding the market, unemployment rates, different industries, and interest rates. How does that help you in your business? How do you take that information and make it work for you in your business?
Well, it clearly, lets me know that, especially, my database, which is typically higher net worth individuals, is a very robust database. So, I should have no issues contacting anybody in my database. As a matter of fact, I don't know, and again, I've talked to several of you that, I've been making outreach calls pretty much since March. And I mean, I don't really, I mean, I've talked to a couple of my clients that are maybe down 50% in business, but their businesses are robust enough that they're still considering, second homes in the future. But I really haven't contacted anybody that says they're unemployed. So, matter of fact, most of the clients that I'm reaching out to are in critical, businesses that have been open during this entire time. And they're actually telling me how phenomenal their business is right now. And actually they have so much work to do, but they also have so much more wealth that they're actually going to be more proactive about buying a second home.
So for you, it was understanding the value of the database that you currently had,
Correct.
understanding what was happening in the market, in the industry, that maybe your clients are working in, so that it also allows you to be more of an expert and understand the conversation.
Correct.
Okay, awesome.
Can I add a comment?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think there's a good point to that as well, because if you have clients that are one of those professionals, or one of those financial people, or the professionals that are still doing well, you can encourage them to play in the market by showing them that everyone else in their same category is super active in the market and buying stuff right now. So it's sort of giving them permission to buy if they're one of those people that's in this 6% unemployment that aren't really impacted. And that's, people like to know that they're not the only one.
Yeah.
So, if you can isolate people into a category that's doing well, then you can give them permission and, I think encourage them through the other people doing the same thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I know you've specifically had some really good success with doing that and using that as part of the conversation that you've had with your clients being similar to Chris's in terms of affluent, your affluent database. So awesome. Thank you for that. Yes.
And just to build on that, there isn't really a conversation that I have that I do not talk about all of my peers that I've been talking with that, again, are in the luxury end, that literally have so many clients that are waiting to get here to purchase. So I let everybody I talk to know there is a very high demand for second homes. And again, the percentage that are willing to buy virtually is small. So once we do open up, again, hopefully we will be extremely active. And I also, then just drop in, a number of the very high net worth sales, one of Dean's at Kapalua Place, that these sales are happening, and they've been happening during COVID. So just to reinforce that, we are still selling here, maybe at a slower pace, but the higher end is, again, the amount of pent up demand is extreme, in my opinion.
Great. Thank you, Chris. We'll come back to you. We'll kind of go around and then come back again. And feel free to chime in. I mean, like Dean did, if you guys want to comment on, and have a conversation about this as somebody said something, and, add to that when if it's the same takeaway or similar thing that you did or had, you can certainly do that. I mean, I'm not going to whip you. We're good. Dan, why don't we go to you? Oh, yeah, you got to unmute. I'm not sure. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, there we go. I thought that the theme of the whole event was really centered around what was your business like pre-COVID and what is your business like now post-COVID? Because all of the sessions I talked, or at least that I chimed in on, was really about the shift and the change in the business and how agents all over the country are doing business differently. And I don't think there's a doubt that COVID has changed real estate in a really profound way. I think that real estate was always headed down the path of having the transaction almost completely online, right? I think that real estate was headed down the path of virtual showings and buying sight unseen. I just think that what COVID did is it accelerated that process a lot quicker, and that the American public is now ready to embrace that. And what I mean by that as an examples is, if I heard 10 agents say that they haven't done an in-person listing presentation in about 4 or 5 months, and they may not do a in-person listing presentation again. That all of their listing presentations are now being done virtually. And in some cases, the public actually prefers it to be done virtually. It's much easier to schedule a time that's convenient for them. There's so much more that you can show on the screen to people and demonstrate. And they kind of feel like they're less obligated, or it's less intrusive if the seller is doing the listing presentation via Zoom, right? And I did one. I've done several actually, and I find that the seller is really comfortable with you in about the first 10 or 15 minutes. And at some point in the conversation, he actually picked up his phone and he started walking through the house, giving me a virtual tour of his house. And I'm thinking, well, this is perfect. I don't even have to go down. And a lot of agents said, listen, I picked up a lot of time because of COVID. I'm not driving out to listing presentations. I'm doing them virtually. In my case, I've got a buyer's agent on my team. So the leads that are coming in, I'm giving to the buyer's agent. And these agents across the country were saying the same thing. We're putting the buyers off to the buyer's agents. I'm doing listing presentations virtually. I've picked up hours and hours of my day. And my presentation in many instances had to get revamped, and it had to become totally virtual. And in the process of revamping all of those materials and doing them virtual, they became better and they were updated. And so that was my first aha out of this. And see, here's the deal. I don't have the dashing good looks and cool accent like Dean Otto. So I have to work harder, right? I have to really come up with some good stuff online. And the other thing that I pulled out of this was just the sheer way that people come up with lead generation. Like, just when I think I have figured out all the different ways to lead generate, I'm watching people come up with lead generation ideas that I hadn't even thought of, you know. And I think of Nikki Klein down in Boca Raton, Florida. She moves to Boca Raton, Florida. She knows nobody. She gets into real estate and she builds an entirely big business just by doing a Facebook group. She starts a Facebook group. She invites the community to participate. And over the next several years, this thing grows to fuel her entire business. I think about the lady I think she was in Maryland, that started out with a 4-page folded newsletter, right? That she's handing out to clients, or she's mailing out to clients. And now she's got this incredibly robust magazine that's serving 12,000 people and is getting mailed out 4 times a year, which just gets me scratching my head that, you know, we all think that lead generation has to be cold calling, or we got to go knock doors. But what I learned was there is so many ways to go about and do this. And you can do it. You can do lead generation and you can build your business at a high level, and you can do it through ways that you actually like, and that will stick. And so those were a couple of my big ahas.
Awesome. And well, you did kind of mix in there. Just want to see if you want to add anything in regard to how does it help you in your business. You mentioned virtual world and doing listing presentations. So clearly you're doing that. You talked about improving those, and you're implementing that in your business. What about any of the other lead generation strategies, or is there anything else that you would be doing, or are you working on to implement in your business?
Yeah, I basically said to Chris, the buyer's agent here, I said, listen, I think we got to take what we think about real estate and just throw it out the window. And let's just grab the whiteboard and erase it and think about things that are different and that are out of the box. And let's not be so, pigeonholed into thinking that lead generation is X, or we've got to do business this way. Because I think this has given us an opportunity to rethink all of that. and again, a lot of you know that I was in radio, that I was a sportscaster, radio and television for years. And we used to whiteboard ideas every week for show ideas. What were we going to talk about on the show? What guests were we going to have? And there would be 6 or 8 of us in a room, and we would be writing down ideas like crazy, and no idea was too absurd. And we'd look at all the ideas and we'd say, okay, obviously we can't do all of this. So let's narrow this down to our 10 best ideas. And then we would narrow it down to 10. And then we would say, okay, now we obviously can't do all 10. We only have 5 days in the week. Let's get this down to our best 5 that are manageable and we think we can really do. And I think I'm going through this exercise now in this business, which is really whiteboarding and talking out loud about any and all ideas, and nothing is too preposterous. And let's get down to the top 3, 4, or 5 ideas that we think are really going to move the needle. An example is I teach a class here out of the Keller Williams Kona office called 101 Lead Generation Ideas. And I literally give agents 101 ideas. I say, don't try to do all of them. You're not even going to be able to. But we give them a system around the 101 ideas. And the system is simply this: pick 5 buckets. Pick 5 buckets that you will do in lead gen, and then attempt to pull 5 deals out of each bucket. And if you pull 5 deals out of 5 buckets, you'll have 25 deals at the end of the year. But the question is, out of the 101, what 5 buckets, what 5 lead gen ideas are you going to do that you would enjoy to do and that you would do on a consistent basis?
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. Great. Dean, the dashing, what did you call him? I don't know.
I don't have his dashing good looks and his cool accent.
Yeah, that guy. Oh, wait. I think you were unmuted and then you muted. There you go.
Damn it, like how's that? I
Yeah,
had no
great.
idea. Awesome, man. I should do more of these, I guess. This is good stuff. But yeah, it was an interesting mega camp. I mean, the whole, digital was interesting. Obviously I missed the networking and the small groups, and I think I was trying to attend one of the socials, but wasn't able to log in, so I didn't even get to do that. But it was an interesting one. I think there was a lot of great information, and I think Chris is right. The breakdown on the economy from Gary Keller, that's just every time we go to one of these, that's the one thing that I'll never miss for sure. And I always take pieces out of it and incorporate it into my pitch or my story for the rest of the year, always. And so it's just really good stuff. And he's just an amazing guy. Chris touched on the unemployment numbers, which are really a big deal right now. That's kind of the challenge for us and our economy and everything else. So those numbers are they tell a good story. The other thing I thought was interesting in explaining the economy, when people ask me, guys, it just seems crazy that all this activity is going on. And, actually it's not that crazy. And there's perfectly good reasons for why it's doing as well as it is. And Gary Keller broke it down for us quite well with unemployment numbers. But the other thing that's a factor is interest rates. But the third thing that I thought was interesting is they gave us some numbers on inventory. And inventory is a key driver, obviously, on any market. But what was interesting was that our inventory is down 3.1% if you look at last year. But between 1999 and 2016, there were only 4 months where there were 4 months or less of inventory available in inventory. So less than 4 months or less inventory there was only 4 months between 1999 and 2016. Since 2017, we've had 20 months with 4 months of inventory or less. And I think you can see that that's a key driver of this economy, is the fact that our inventory is at record low numbers. I mean, to have 4 months or less of inventory is considered very low. And, as I say, with only 4 months in a 17-year period, and now we've had 20 months in the last 3 years, is a pretty significant statement. And I think that's a key driver and key information for people that ask you why our market's doing so well. I think inventory. The other thing that I thought was pretty interesting was Tim Ferriss is like my favorite dude of all time. I love Tim Ferriss. I listen to a lot of his podcasts. The guy's amazing. And he has some really incredible stuff. And, what I loved about what he said, and what also Keith Cunningham, the other keynote speaker, said, that there was one common denominator in both of their speeches, and it was the idea that the inner game is really what's played by the high achievers. So if you're in the business of luxury or high-end clientele, that's the high achievers are driven by the inner game, the mastery of their craft, mastering their craft is what drives them, not competing with other people in the field, you know, or trying to outcompete a competitor or Google versus blah, blah, blah. He said that's not what drives high achievers. What drives high achievers is the inner game. It's the desire to master your craft. And I think that's really, I thought was huge point for me, because I think it's a pathway that I was already leading down. So in answer to the question that Dietz is going to ask me of how I'm incorporating all this in, I feel like this was a pathway that I'd already started. Before coronavirus, I was very into trying to drive volume, and I was doing Facebook leads and all this crazy stuff that I've never done before. I had no idea what I was doing. And it was just a massive grab for clients and data and people, and just trying to grab them all and put them in my database. But there was just something felt wrong with it, you know. And I think through this process of the coronavirus and the pandemic, and it being confirmed in these two keynote speakers, that it's really not about how many people you can get your hands on. It's about creating relationships and actually, you know, doing your job, which is to represent your clients and really have a deep relationship with them and represent the best interest and have a client for life, you know, is really the goal. And so I've actually took that to heart, and I've done a lot of restructuring of what I'm doing. I'm spending a lot of time right now rewriting my playbook and my system and my model of how I do my business, and define it real carefully on how it is, and up my game to a whole nother level is my goal. I'm trying to elevate my service standards to a level far beyond where I'm at right now. And I just finished my second full day of Ritz-Carlton Gold Standard Management training through the Ritz-Carlton, 2 full days of it so far. And it's really interesting and really great. So I'm really excited about it. But it's really tapping into a whole nother level of service, and a whole nother level of treating a client, and a much deeper relationship with these people. And so what I've done is I've stopped my, you know, trying to grab onto everyone and trying to grab all these new clients on Facebook and all the rest of it. And I'm not taking any raw leads. I'm only taking warm leads who are people that I've touched in the past, and generally that's my database and the people that I know, and just taking all of my people to a whole another deeper level, and creating an experience for these people that's just going to blow them away in a transaction or in anything beyond the transaction, so that I'm going to get more referrals out of my people, and not be so focused on trying to get new business, is what I'm trying to do. So I'm going to do it through mastery and mastering my craft, and really taking it to another level, and designing a program and a level of service that no one's ever seen before, and really try to create something that's special, that I'm going to get tons of referrals out of it. And that's really going to be my goal for next year, on how I'm going to get to my next level. Damn, that was a lot. Sorry about that. I'm rambling on here.
No, that was fantastic.
But I think it's ultimately, it's that inner game. You know, to me, it's like, you know, that's exactly right. You know, it is. It's not about, to me, and I know it is about, for a lot of people, it is about Facebook campaigns and stuff. And I'm not knocking that at all, because I think it's amazing. I mean, I did it for several months, and I got 300 leads a month of Facebook, and I paid for it. But I was really having a hard time converting them, and they're great for my database. I'm going to nurture them in the future. But I realized that for me, my opportunity is with my database, and leveraging more referrals out of my people rather than trying to find new people. My people are already halfway impressed. You know, I got to now up at a level and give them an experience that's going to be like, wow, and then ask for the business. You know, when I wow these people with this great service, I'm going to ask them for the referrals. And I think there's if you've ever heard Brady Sandall, and I've been working with Brady, and it comes from this Ritz-Carlton training, is that there's 7 defining moments in a transaction or a relationship. And the 7 defining moments should be celebrated. So they should be, when you have the photography, you are taking them a gift of some kind. And they have a program. It's really interesting. I can give more information if anyone's interested. But it's a step process. It's 7 events, 7 moments during the transaction, and the opportunities to wow your clients with some great experience or gift or whatever it is. And then at the same time, ask them for referrals too. So for me, I picked up a lot of that in the luxury. There wasn't very much luxury in this mega camp, but ultimately the stuff that I did get done was really honing in on that and trying to really focus on elevating my standards of service.
Awesome. That's great.
The other thing that he talked about, Tim Ferriss, which, oh, sorry, did you have a question there, Jonathan?
Jonathan, I think wanted to say or ask something. Did you, Jonathan? Oh, no? Okay.
If you've heard me ranting and raving in the past about the pandemic and the conversations I'm having with people, it was awesome that Tim Ferriss in his presentation talked about exactly what I had been talking about, which was that the things that we have no control about are neutral, and that we need to neutralize the things that we have no control over and not get caught up in them. And the pandemic is an obvious one, right? But the truth is that early in the pandemic, we had no control. We had no idea what was going on. So all these predictions and all these ideas, thoughts that people had were really unfounded, and really we had no idea where we were. So if we have no control over it, it's not predictable, we have to neutralize it. And if it's neutral, then either of the options are as likely as the other. So the idea that the whole world's going to implode and come to an end and it's going to be crazy end of the world with this pandemic is one option. But if it's neutral and unpredictable and we have no control over it, the alternative is equally as likely, which is that the market's going to turn around and Maui's actually going to become one of the most popular, highest demand destinations in the world. And I'm telling you that I was right. But I think ultimately, being aware of your thoughts, this is from Tim Ferriss, right? Being aware of those thoughts, recognizing when they're out of your control, neutralizing them, and looking for the positive outcome, because the positive outcome is just as likely as the negative.
Mm-hmm.
And staying focused and positive and having those positive conversations with people. So my goal was during this whole pandemic is to convert people from their negativity that they're getting from the media and everything else to the positive, and pointing out that, we don't have control. So let's not talk about that. Why don't we talk about the great options, But there was all stuff that Tim Ferriss talked about. And so it was really exciting for me because it's stuff that I've been talking about for a while and I've been coached on for a while. So you can tell my coach obviously is a Tim Ferriss fan, but ultimately it's really good stuff. And Tim Ferriss is amazing, I think. And those were some of the things that I think were most important for me, that in a game, neutralizing what you have no control over and awareness around your thoughts, so that you can be aware that we're getting sucked into this drama of, media's influence and everything else, which actually most of the time, if you sit down and stop and think, is just outlandish that people are even trying to predict these things.
Great.
Does that make sense?
Yes. I love the mastery and service conversation. It's great because it does remind us that as long as if you're focused on mastery, you talked about mastery versus being focused on your competition. There's a sense or an awareness of what is going on around you that you need to be aware of, right? Not ignorant about. However, if you focus on mastery yourself, you will naturally excel. You will naturally escalate. The business will come because you are getting better. You are an expert. You are providing a high level of service to the client. I love that. It also reminded me of, if you know Mike Brody, who is he owns Keller Williams offices. He's an owner of Regions, and he's been with the company a long time. And he tells a great story about when he started in real estate, and he ended up only working with 100 people in his database, just like what you said, where, and I'm not saying 100 is the magic number today. However, the point was he went small to go big, right? He went small in his database. He focused on the people that were his A database, that were repeating, his client database, referring him business, that he was working with repeat business. And he had an incredibly successful business just working with that circle of 100 people. And he maximized it, and he provided such a high level of service. So it's definitely feasible to do that. It is a different model. There's not necessarily a good, bad, right, or wrong. It's really what kind of Dan was talking about too, is what you enjoy doing, what you're good at doing, and what you choose to use to focus to bring that business in. The idea is you have different options, and these are all great. And people, everybody who's here can kind of tend to go, okay, like that's the nugget, right? That's what I'm going to take from it. And I mean, everybody should be working on self-mastery. That's just a general thing, and everybody should be providing a high level of service. Although oftentimes, if you're servicing a certain number of clients, there's a capacity that you're going to hit. So you either have to change your business model and create a team environment or do something differently to can maintain that level of service, or you just focus on the people that you're going to work with and you're going to service at a really high level. So that was great information. Awesome. Jonathan, did you want to say something, or?
I just had a conflicting Zoom. I thought that was outstanding. No, I was just going to see if I could contribute sooner or later, just a few basic mega camp takeaways.
Yeah, sure. If you want to go ahead and give your top three, what I was asking, I'm not sure. I know you came on a little bit late. Top three takeaways, and then also how you are implementing that in your business. What you're doing to make a change in your business based on what you've learned.
Well, yeah, Dean stole a little bit of exciting thunder, because I thought, for me personally, one of my focuses this year was the luxury element. I'm moving deeper into luxury, and I just thought that the seminars, programs, there's a certain giving nature. I feel like the mega camp, family reunion, even Bold, the general vibe is like we're all in this together, and we're stronger by helping each other and giving each other sort of expert knowledge, wisdom, true life experience. And so my big three things would really be like the overall elements of mega camp itself. I just sort of feel like it was very motivational. I find it like Bold or like family reunion, just like that there's an underlying, the keynotes and the event itself is kind of like, even in the face of a challenging year potentially, or change and struggle, like there's all this stuff that we could focus on within our business and be excited about. And so I really appreciated that. And then there were a lot of details like, in the luxury elements, there the specific strategies. There was one where it really talked about 5 specific strategies to succeed and kind of thrive. One of the other things is the technology element that was kind of hinted at. Like I feel like we've got a lot of really big things right now that we're just beginning to be able to take advantage of. This platform within Command that I learned about, where you can share, everybody's sharing smart plans. So, you've got a basically open source system of 180,000+ agents that are giving operating systems within our specific, platform, which is really outstanding, really wonderful. So those were kind of, for me, the things that, I really feel like it's huge when we say we're a technology platform and an education-based company. I feel like it's there in spades, and these are just examples of it. Like I still actually, the few things I wasn't able to watch on Mega Camp, I'm trying to bracket out my schedule because they've put up the video library. So if you missed any of those breakouts or a session that you guys might want to see on lead gen, or all the different things, you can go in and watch it. So that's my takeaways.
Awesome. And is there anything that you specifically, so you mentioned, I'm just looking for how you're implementing that in your business. You did mention the smart plans. So being able to use those. What
one thing was also the newsletter. Like I kind of have needed to revamp and create, like, I think a more holistic and inspiring newsletter that I can really put my personal stamp on, not generic at all. I'm actually even moving mine in the direction of just general lifestyle, Maui lifestyle, and that type of thing, with very good real estate content, because for my audience, I think that serves me. So yeah, that's another actual practical thing I'm working on.
Customizing the newsletter, kind of along the lines of Dan was sharing about Nikki in Florida, who created a Facebook group, which was not real estate specific, from what I understand, Dan, right? It was just information and community and providing value and getting people talking. And that's actually a really great segue. Thank you, Jonathan. It's actually a really great segue into Don Harris, who's our next panelist, because that is exactly what he does really, really well. So I'm very curious to hear, Don, what your takeaways were, and you can repeat the things I just mentioned if you want.
Well, first I realized that I have to start going on these Zooms before Dean and before Dan. I swear they came in and took my notes. But no, you know, as you know, I'm kind of into ninja selling, and the whole concept is attracting versus pursuing. So when we moved here in 2017, we didn't know anybody. You know, we knew a couple people on island, but really relatively few. And I really didn't want to sell. I had been in different sales positions in the past. And so ninja selling just was a perfect fit because it's a way to develop relationships, which was one of the things that Dean talked about. So the three things that I really was looking for out of, or that I found at MegaCamp, one, I was focusing on relationships, I was focusing on video, and I was focusing on luxury. So I'll see Dean one more instead of 7 defining moments. I'm going to go with Brady's 8 defining moments because I'll go one higher. But anyway, so that was one of the big keys. I'd heard him talk about that in the past, but during the luxury breakout, he went over that in detail, and I've been wanting to implement that. It's a little harder here on Maui because our clients are often, 2,500 miles and an ocean away. So some of these items are tough to do because they are set up, like I'm looking at right now, defining moment 7, open of escrow, give them a bottle of wine or champagne. Well, it's hard to run that over to them when they're, in California. But so we're trying to figure out how to alter that so it can suit our business. But really all three of them, luxury, relationships, and video, to me, they all are really combined into experiences. And that's a little bit of what Dean and Dan were talking about too, is you want to create an experience for people. And that's what in part builds a deep relationship, because, everybody knows the saying, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Well, creating an experience using Brady's 8 closing gifts. One of the videos that we watched was about client parties and different things like that really create a true bond, not just I'm your realtor bond, but I'm a human being bond that cares about you as a human being. Those type of things are the things that I care about. So when we're doing videos, we are pretty big on social media. Matter of fact, I have not asked anyone in the last 2 years if I could be their realtor. We've only gotten clients who've contacted us and asked us to help them. Matter of fact, we got one in escrow this week. A guy contacted me last week, asked if I could give him a call and talk to he and his wife. So Tammy and I called him and talked to him, and they decided to go ahead and put an offer in, and we got it accepted. I was checking out his Facebook page. He's friends with 16 other realtors that I'm also friends with. So who knows how many other realtors he's friends with that I'm not mutual friends with. So I didn't contact this guy. He called me out of the blue, and we were able to get him into contract and into escrow because I was offering value out with nothing expected. Mm-hmm. I wasn't pursuing him. And by the way, just a shameless plug for Ninja Selling. Ninja Selling every Monday at 2 o'clock. We'll go over how to attract versus pursue. But so I was looking for tips on how to create more videos to attract. And right along with what Jonathan was saying, if you're just showing them what life is like here on Maui, that's valuable. In Ninja Selling, they talk about the 2 ways to create value are to either solve a problem or ease pain, or create pleasure. Well, everything that we can do remotely, you can do those 2 things. You can solve a problem and ease pains, and create pleasure. Like solving a problem is telling them how the market works. So like Dean said, filling them in on, what the economy is doing, what other people are doing, solve that problem of how can I own in Maui? giving them pleasure, showing them whale pics. I mean, we just had our first whale sighting yesterday. Throw that on social media. People love it. You know, go show them a picture of a honu that you just saw this morning, you know, at the beach, or show your feet walking in the sand. All those things create pleasure. So, you know, all those things together for me kind of consolidate into creating experiences for people that make them want to work with you. And, you know, like I said earlier, it's giving without expectation that I think creates business. At least that's what we do. And it's been fantastic. I had a mentor once that said the size of the window you give through is the size of the window you receive through. So the more you give, the more you receive. But again, the key is giving without expectation of receiving, because then people know that you're genuine.
Yeah.
And then they start calling you and asking you to be their realtor. I can't tell you how many people we've had that said, hey, I was wondering if you could work with me, like asking if we would, if we could allow them to work with us. And these are people we don't know. We've never met them before in our lives. And it's all because we've set up a system of attracting versus pursuing. So these three things, the luxury closing gifts, the 8, you know, defining moments. I really want to do client parties. When I was dreaming of Maui, that was one of the things I was dreaming of. When we finally have helped all these people, you know, live an incredible life, you know, doing a whale watch tour with them, which we're kind of tentatively, and don't let Tammy hear me in the background, we're tentatively planning our first one for January, you know, to take our clients that we've done business with on a whale watch tour, you know, Sunset Whale Watch. But those are the kind of things where you're creating the experiences that I think make the difference and differentiate you as a realtor and as a person away from everybody else.
Great. So yeah, you answered some of how you're implementing, doing the videos, implementing more videos, and client parties or client experiences. I think it's the aloha y'all that makes people work with you, because that's like a mix of the Texas and Maui thing. It's pretty cool. Great. Yeah, just a couple of things I wanted to share, some of which that came up and were talked about. But there was a really cool exercise that Keith Cunningham kind of talked us through, and who wrote the books, Keys to the Vault, and then he has that new one about, what is it called? Something about stupid. Anyway, he has a new book. But he has a book called Keys to the Vault, and he's Keith Cunningham. If you don't know who he is, he was one of the keynote speakers that Gary interviewed. And he also was the rich dad from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki's book. He's the rich dad, the person that he spoke about in that book. And, you know, he's an interesting character, and he has constantly evolved and grown in terms of being a business person over the years. And there was an exercise that he had us go through, and I was reminded of it when Dean was talking about, and actually a couple of you, Dan, you talked about it, and Dean, you talked about it, which is starting over. Like, you know, Dan talking about the whiteboard and starting from scratch, and Dean talking about reworking the whole business of how you do things. And he said to draw 3 intersecting circles. So what he said was, if you have a piece of paper and you want to do this, and this is kind of an interesting process to go through, to think about your business as though you're starting over. The upper left-hand circle was, this is something I'm good at. So you draw a circle in the upper left, something I'm good at. And then you draw a circle in the upper right, which is something that people want, something I'm good at and something that people want. And then the circle below that, which they all intersect slightly, and the circle below that is something that people will pay for. And this is what people go through when they're creating a business or a new product. Certainly something that you can do when you're reinventing and looking at your business differently. So what is it that you're good at? And this applies to any component of your business. What are you good at? What do people want that you could potentially provide? And then what will they pay for, right? Because we can give people free things that they want that they're not going to pay for. And what he said is where those circles intersect, he actually called it luck. And he did address the fact that a lot of times people who are highly successful or entrepreneurs don't talk about luck, because we say, you know, people say we make our own luck and we can control everything that kind of happens. And yet there is an element of luck that he said that comes from defining those circles. And that's where luck meets. You have to have clarity around those things. And then all of a sudden things start to happen. So I really liked that idea, which goes along with this idea of reinventing. So I would challenge everybody on this call to do some kind of an exercise, whether it's one of those three things we talked about today, where you really are putting a fresh eye on what you're doing. You know, what are you doing in this business? Who are the people that you're helping? Who do you want to work with? Who do you want to attract? What ultimately choices are you going to make about what you want your business to look like, and what's unique about that? That's you. I mean, you heard many different things already today, and they're different. Some people have the same takeaways, although what you guys are talking about doing and applying them in your business are all different, because you're different people, and how you run your business is different, and what speaks to you is different. And then, of course, the mastery conversation that Dean was talking about, mastery versus a game of winning or your competition. And, so asking how good can I be at this, and what is the opportunity that you have for mastery. I like that Keith Cunningham also mentioned, he said, if I gave you the opportunity to unwind any 3 financial decisions that you've made, what would that look like, and how much money would you have? So thinking about, and I kind of went through that process too, where you start to think about, what are 3 financial decisions I made that I would do differently this time? And you think about that, and you process that, and you go, what can I learn from that, and how would I do that differently? And then all of a sudden your brain starts to rewire and think about that differently. So the next time you have an opportunity, you're doing something differently that's not going to lead you to that same mistake again. He just said the key to getting rich is doing less dumb things. Okay, so I'd love to now invite, I have a couple of other takeaways, but I would love to invite anybody who is on the call to share that attended Mega Camp, to share any of their takeaways. Is there anybody that's on the call that attended Mega Camp that isn't part of the panel? I see several people on here. I'm not sure though if there's anybody in here that did attend Mega Camp. Is there anyone else here? And I can't see your faces. I'm assuming you're still paying attention. Somebody did send me a message that they were going to watch the recording of this, by the way. So it will be available for recording. Anyone else on the call that attended Mega Camp that has takeaways? Any thoughts or comments? I'd love to hear a couple of thoughts or comments about what was just shared with you, and what your takeaways from the takeaways are. What are some of the things that you like that people said that you are going to implement in your own business? Moksha, Janice, Lori, Crystal, Brad, Lucy, James, Jim.
I have a
Aaron.
comment. I'm surprised that no one has brought up the relationship between Facebook and KW and Google and KW, which really was what consumed the entire Mega Camp.
Yeah, Michelle Belch did. Thank you for mentioning that. She did text me because she was at a showing, and she did mention that. She said that her biggest takeaway was the 800 million daily viewers of Facebook, of videos, right? Of live videos that they watch on Facebook or Instagram. 800 million people a day or watch videos. So it really showed the power of that. And then, yes, I mean, the big takeaways for me were in regard to the relationship with Google and Facebook, just in terms of that shared relationship, of data and information to help better whatever it is that each person is creating, whether that's the product, like our consumer app, the fact that Google was the last, were the last people, whoever they were with Google, to review our consumer app before it got released. So the 800 million daily video viewers was a really big one to show the power of video and how many people are being impacted by it. So what else, Dean, in regard to that, do you have?
I just think it's the great opportunity that Facebook is giving us to be the only company partnered with Facebook. I mean, it's like the most massive company in the world, and I think that's worth something. And they're making it, their success is to some degree based on our success with their tools. So they want us to be successful. They're trying to make us more successful, which is kind of a cool perspective to take on it, that, you know, Facebook is partnered with us to make us more successful so that they can be more successful.
Yes.
You know, it's not a bad place to be. You know?
Yeah, that was pretty great. And in fact, one of the things that I'm working on that I mentioned, I'm not sure if you were at the team meeting, I think you were, that I'm working on is getting a speaker from Facebook, just like they did, to get somebody, a representative who is at Facebook in our industry or works related to what we do in terms of targeted ads and things that, you know, real estate practices. Google would be like SEO, and have them talk up and do an event in November where they're a speaker, and they're going to talk about our industry. They're going to talk about, you know, best practices and what they see in terms of success and things that realtors do. So I am working on securing a special guest for that for November. So stay tuned. That would be another big event that we do this year. And then we're also going to do a business planning clinic this year. Another thing that I you know, just revisiting, which we talked about when we did the Shift series, is going back to the idea of what in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book it talks about, which is red light, green light, where you're playing that with your business. You're looking at, what am I spending money on that's producing a return for me, which is another way to determine if you're going to reinvent something in your business. What should that be? Well, where am I spending money now that I'm not getting the return that I need? Where should I be cutting expenses? So kind of playing that game of the red light, green light was a big one for me, and holding your dollars accountable. And lastly, from this is more from the leadership side. However, I think it can apply to agents in their business, and it's an interesting concept. Dan knows this because we've been talking about it. We're looking at, and we're going to be creating focus groups around it. We're looking at talking to our agents about how they want to be in business with us, and giving them some different ideas of things that we could do to provide services to them. And I almost see that, you know, that can parallel to you guys and your clients, where what if, I mean, you're defining what you want to do in your business, and which is great. So you have consistency, you provide a high level of service to every client. That is critical. I'm not saying don't do that. The other thing that would be interesting, because all of your clients are different, is what if you provided an opportunity for them to identify and select how they want to do business with you, what that looks like, how they work with you, you know, sharing your systems and your models and your service that you provide. And, you know, they may say, like Dawn, you talked about sending them a bottle of wine. What if they don't, you know, what if they don't drink? I mean, it's still nice to get a gift, but you know what I mean? Where it's customizable for the client, not just, so it's still the same level and quality of service, yet they can personalize it, because we know all of our clients are different. So that was what I got from the leadership side, and how I do that with our agents. And it's a really cool concept that can apply to your business as well with your clients.
One thing for this Zoom thing that I should say, I don't want to say learned, but relearned, and Dean made a great point of it, was working your people you already know. You know, Ninja Selling is big on having a small database, but actually having a relationship or quote flow with them. So I think Dean's going to explode his business if that becomes his focus. Not that he needs any help exploding it. But
no, it's had a big impact for me in this pandemic, is I've had a great run, and I'm completely believe that it's a big part of the shift that I made very early on, immediately actually. And it's because I have a good coach and I was prepared for it, you know. But yeah, I think there's no question. And I was really obvious, because prior to that, I'd really been chasing all these Facebook leads, and just, I don't know what I was competing for. Everyone else was doing it, so I figured I better do it as well, you know. Yeah. And it made me realize that, you know what, I flipped all the way back to what I had, sort of the fundamentals of my business, which are, you know, pretty basic. I mean, it's not a big expensive business, but ultimately it's a deeper relationship. It's a deeper level. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for us, the purpose of Facebook ads is to find clients if you don't have a database already.
Right.
You know, it could be a great tool, but we don't do anything.
It is a great tool. Look, I mean, there's no question. I mean, to be able to pick up 300 leads that people filled out a form and sent back to me in 1 month, to me is mind blowing, you know. That anyone would be that crazy to fill out that form, you know. at 300 a month. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, I was blown away by it. And I think if it was at a different point in my career, in a
Right.
different space, I'd be doing that all day long.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure.
We got,
And then getting the going deeper and deeper on trying to get to know those people. It takes time. I wish I was doing it 20 years ago, you know, kind of thing.
I gotta say, I'm also super impressed with Chris Haig. I know he's been really working his database, and he's doing the things that we should all be doing that aren't necessarily what you want to wake up and do every day, get on the phone and call people.
Care calls.
So just to
Yeah.
just to give you a little, so I'm just starting my third round of communications with 900 plus leads that I have. And it's kind of funny, during the process, because of COVID, it's also made it easy for me, because when I met, and some of you I've told this to, when I met people at a luxury property, I let them know that I'm only going to reach out to them 4 times a year. You know, 4 emails, newsletters, 1 phone call. And because of COVID, I've been sending a newsletter every month. And I'm doing that constant contact so I can see how many they've opened, how many clicks they've done, because I put a lot of clickable links in. And what's happened is the second time around that I called them, and now the third time, I'm getting a much higher response rate of people answering my phone calls. One of the other things that I have done since March 20th, I have gone to the ocean or a hillside or anywhere on the island that I'm at, and I have posted sunset views over 200 consecutive days now on Instagram. And almost every single person I call says, we love your sunsets. It's like the first thing they say. So, and it's kind of funny, they're not following me, but it's astonishing how many people I reach on the phone are telling me that they enjoy the sunsets that I'm posting. So I've got the 2 touches. I've got once a month with my newsletter now, which I'm going to continue. And I have the sunsets, and I also have, you know, the contacts. And so I've been reaching out to clients that I've had in my database since 2003 that I've never touched. And I call them up and they're like, oh yeah, I've been looking at your newsletters and, you know, we're ready to come out, you know, next month and buy something. I mean, out of the blue. And on the flip side of that, I will tell you that not having command, not having a good CRM, and not staying on top of my clients, I have contacted 3 clients that purchased in the last 12 months. All 3 of them more or less apologized to me that I hadn't kept in contact. You know, I wasn't top of mind. I mean, it was really just, it was kind of shocking. And, you know, a couple of them, even though they purchased something, they now want to repurchase something. And they're like, yeah, of course, we've been following you now for the last, 6 months or whatever. And I mean, in one case, this was a client that I met in December. I showed them some properties. I put them on an automatic search. They read my February newsletter. They read my March newsletter, and they came back the first, or the middle of March. They met me via the internet. They called me up, saw that I was with Keller Williams, and contacted me. They reached out to Keller Williams and ended up buying. And the guy's like, we didn't even know the person we were working with, but we weren't in touch with you. And I'm like, not only were they getting newsletters that they were opening in the last 30 days, so it just gives you an idea of how important it is to stay in touch with your database. And this was a client that, shame on me, because when I met them, they told me they were going to buy something within 3 months, but again, I was meeting so many people at the time, and I didn't have a CRM that kept me on top of those type of things. Now I do. And I can tell you that, the one thing, through all of these contacts, which kind of surprises me the most, is I could pull out my calendar literally for the next 6 months, and I've got 15, 20 people coming in every single month that I'm now going to meet with and take to lunch and show properties to that are serious And without command, without this time that I've had to contact these people, I guarantee you 90% of them would have fallen through the cracks.
Love it.
So,
So that's great, Chris. I mean, I'm hearing
I mean,
like, go ahead.
I mean, just you know, the biggest one most recently is a gentleman that I had met 3 years ago, went dark on me, and I sent him many voice messages, emails, and this was a third time around. I reached out to him, again, left a voicemail, then sent him a text, and I sent a text with a aloha emoji of myself and, you know, just something kind of cute. He called me back the next day and says, you know, if you're willing, kind of like Don says, I would like to have you assist me in buying a very high-end commercial property on Maui now, which I'm working with Bonnie and Michelle with right now to try to transact that deal. And again, I hadn't heard from him in 2 years.
And you were calling him. That's a great example. I mean,
Oh yeah,
it was interesting because you mentioned that you used to do the open houses and be proud of the fact that you're only going to contact somebody 4 times a year, thinking that that might be what they want or providing a good level of service. And in reality, the fact that you've been more in touch, they're appreciating, and it's, you know, it's a win-win. I mean, they like it, they feel connected to you, and vice versa, right?
well, I would probably still use the same strategy because, you know, high net worth people aren't quite as willing to share their contact information.
Mm.
And by telling these people, you know, first proving my capabilities and my knowledge of the market, and then asking them, and if they resist, then I tell them, listen, I'm only going to send out 1 newsletter a quarter, 1 phone call, you know, I'm going to wait to hear from you, kind of thing. It's amazing. 50% of those that wouldn't give me their contact information say, thank God. You know, we don't want to be hounded every single day and every single week. Here's all my contact information. So I would use the same approach to get the information, and then, you know, just limit it to once a month, you know, versus, you know, a higher frequency.
Got it. Thank you for that. And kind of like, so Dan, I know you were going to say something, and I think that what some of the things that Chris said reminded me when you were talking about post-COVID, pre-COVID, post-COVID, and kind of changing your strategies and changing your business and doing more stuff virtually is like more in alignment with what Chris is talking about too. So did you have something else, Dan, that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I mean, I've been at this a long time, and I've done so many different versions of my business, right? I started off as a single agent, built my team, and, you know, we went through this period where we were heavy on ISAs, then we weren't on ISAs. We went through this period, as Dean described, where we were chasing cold leads, and then we were off cold leads. I mean, there was a point where I was spending, for my team in Colorado, we were spending $12,000 a month just on lead generation, and it was producing almost no returns, right? I mean, we had a bunch of names in the database, but we had no money in the bank. And I went to a luxury conference with Keller Williams in Las Vegas, and one of the speakers was up on the stage, and I can't remember his name, but he was memorable because he said, basically, going forward, do you want to spend money on calling out to business, or do you want to spend money to have business call in? And that was a big aha for me when I came out of that. I said, oh my gosh, I've been spending $12,000 a month on lead generation, trying to make the phone ring out, right? Calling out for business, trying to go out and get new business. Or do you want the phone to ring in? To Don's point, people calling me saying, we'd like to do business with you. And I decided right there and then I was going to stop what I was doing. And so I came back and I had a team of 8 in Denver, and I got everybody together and I said, effective today, we are stopping all of our lead generation, 100% of it. And they're like, wait, what? What do you mean? No, don't stop the Zillow. We need the Zillow zip codes. No, I said, we're not doing any of it. We're killing it all. And we're going to shift this business to a 97 or 98% referral-based business. That's what we're going to do. And it took us about 2.5 to 3 years to get off the crack, so to speak. to get off the paid lead generation. And it was painful, but we did it. And we finally got to a point we were a 97 or 98% referral based business. And the strategy that I had to learn and develop over those 3 years with my MAPS coaches and other people that had done it was exactly that. How do I get the phone to ring in? What does that marketing look like? Where people say, I want to do business with Dan. To Chris's point, maybe it was photographing 200 sound sets where they call in. I've had almost the identical experience that Chris has had. When Jason Abrams talks about the little squiggly graph where at the top is the point where you sell them the house, and then the graph goes down and circles back up, and it's 5 to 7 years later when that person buys again. He says what really matters is what happens in the middle. What happens in the middle from the time that they bought the house until that 5 or 7 years rolls around again and they buy again. What happens in the middle is the follow up. It's the people that stay in front of their customers and let them know that they're a resource. I really think that's the differentiator in this business from the agents that do just so to the agents that do really, really well. And that is what happens between the sales from the time they buy till they buy again in 5 to 7 years. I was doing what Don wants to do. I was doing 3 events a year in Colorado, in Denver for all of our clients. And we were doing them on a very high level. We don't get to do them as cool as you can here in the islands. We rented a bowling alley, right, for the night and brought all of our clients out to a bowling alley. We rented a theater and brought all of our clients out to a movie night. We couldn't do a whale watch in Denver. But we could have done a grizzly watch, I suppose, in the mountains, but that would have been a little dangerous. We would do these events, and there was one guy, and I've told this story before, and you know it, Lisa, but there was one guy, Tony Paulson, and I sold him and his wife a small house. It was their first home. They had 1 child in a suburb of Denver, and the price of the house was like $300,000. And I put him in the database, and I invited Tony to everything we did. I mean, I followed the book on referral marketing. I mean, I had him in all of the proper lists. We had all of the touches. We had all of the mailings. We invited him to the events. And this guy never, ever, ever responded. I called, I texted, I emailed, I did it all. And one day I'm sitting in my office and the phone rings, and on the caller ID, it says Tony Paulson. And he says, hey, Dan, Renee and I were thinking about buying a ranch outside of Colorado. Would you be interested in helping us buy that ranch? I said, are you still in the house that we bought 5 years ago? Yeah, we're going to use it as a rental. Well, we just want to go ahead and buy this ranch. And I said, well, sure, Tony. Yeah, I'd love to help you buy this ranch. I said, I just got one question, just out of curiosity. I said, I have reached out to you. I can't tell you how many times over the last 5 years. And I said, I never did hear back from you. I invited you to all of our events every year. He goes, oh, no, Dan. He said, I got every invitation. I saw every email. I got every text message. And that's why I'm calling you today. And so what I'd say to people is, don't give up on that database. Just because you're not hearing from them. Remember Tony Paulson. They're seeing it all. You're in the forefront of their mind. When they go to sell, if you've done well on that follow-up period, they will come back and use you again. There's no 2 ways about it.
Great. Yeah, I love that story. It's such a good one.
Mhm.
You have really good stories. So I heard a couple of you mentioned a coach, a MAPS coach, Dan, and I don't want this to go by without making a point of it. And Dean has been working with his coach. And, again, anybody on the call, if you do not have a coach, that is huge. I mean, it's a great opportunity for you there's a lot of reasons coaching is great. So if you're with Keller Williams, the MAPS coaching system is really good. That's available depending on what level of your business. You could be in productivity coaching if you're new within the office, but that is a huge game changer for your business, is to have a coach for many reasons. So I want to make sure.
My MAPS coach story?
Yes, hang on. What I want to do though, before because I know we block this to 4 o'clock. I don't, it's up to you. That's just to give us ample time. We don't necessarily have to do it till 4. Maybe we can go another 10 to 15 minutes. What I would like to do is get anybody on the call who attended Mega Camp and has a takeaway, please share. Or if you did not attend Mega Camp, what have you learned today? And what are you excited about potentially implementing in your own business? I want to hear from some of our people since I can't see any of your faces.
If I can just say one thing before jump in here.
Or Chris can probably get too.
I'm just going to be an advocate. So, you know, I was looking back and watching some of the videos for Mega Camp, and I found the very first event of the entire Mega Camp at 10 a.m. on Monday was Hack Your Motivation by Cody Gibson. And if you have not watched this, if you went to Mega Camp and you didn't backtrack and watch that particular hour segment, it is unbelievable. And I don't know, you know, Lisa, whether I think it was actually at the, you know, at the executive level, and it may not even be available to everybody else at that time, but he went on and just talked about, and I can go into some of them, but I'll let other people speak, but it is something, again, that you really need to go and spend an hour watching this, because it just has just countless nuggets of things to create a mental mindset to improve in so many different ways.
I'm going to let you end with some of those highlights, Chris, okay? That'll be a good thing for us to close with. And yeah, Cody Gibson is, I mean, he's absolutely phenomenal. He's an incredible coach too, and he's an incredible agent and team lead, and he's been very successful in the company. He's done a lot of expansion. So I definitely want to hear that. Okay, Crystal's giving a thumbs up. So who has a takeaway to share? You can also put it in the chat box for those of you who may not be able to share on the phone or have us look at you because of whatever is going on in your world over there. You can share. I'd love to see some takeaways shared in the chat box of what these guys learned. I know those of us who have been talking and are showing our video are all learning a lot from each other, which is great. It's like our own little mastermind. Although we're also here for all of you. So who has a takeaway to share that's on this call? Brad, Jim, Baron, Mike, Diane, Ken, Sophia, Lori, Janice, Crystal, Moksha. What do you guys got? You think they can even hear me? Like, what are you should say something about?
They've been taken off. I probably.
Oh, hey, Baron and Lucy. Woo!
Hi,
Yeah,
my name
video.
is Darren. I'm new, so I have a productivity coach with the Big Island division. Hi, Dan.
Hi.
That was awesome. I've really been enjoying everything. I was in my kitchen with my family, but I stepped in the office so I could talk. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate all the feedback. A couple of the notes that I took that stood out to me. I really enjoyed Don Harris when you were talking about attracting versus pursuing. And, you know, the size of the window you give through is bigger than the size of the window you receive through. That was really important. I think we can all work on that coming from that space. And I really enjoyed learning about the Facebook leads. I think that's something really unique and really cool that we have that relationship with Facebook. So I'm really going to lean on that. As well as when Dan was talking about, I'm going to have to take the 101 lead generation ideas class. That was really cool.
Yeah, let's do that.
And kind of funneling it down. I really liked the fact that he was saying, you know, not something that works for you isn't going to work for something that works for everybody. And finding things that you're going to stay consistent in that you enjoy doing, because not everything is going to be the same for everybody. And, you know, just kind of funneling it down to 5 to 4 to 3, and then, you know, tracking that. I think that's really, really important as well. And especially with these changing times, we have a lot of tools at our fingertips. So I feel really grateful for that. So thank you, everybody.
Baron. We appreciate you stepping away to share with us. So thank you.
Nice to meet you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, you too. Okay, Lucy, you got take.
All right. Yes. Hello, everyone. Well, I want to thank everybody speaking. Fantastic. I pulled my notes. I was at Mega Camp. Most of you know I'm a part-time agent getting ready to get back in the hotel business. And I get to meet a lot of people. Of course, at work, I cannot really converse with them, but often it happens outside of work. And a lot of what's been taking were kind of on my notes, but I need to keep hearing it and keep hearing it. And so I'm preparing to make a great new plan of action. This is the first time I can hear from so many leaders, top agents, ways so I can implement that as opposed to the old school that I learned at, so I can think outside the box. And there's many, many, many ways, as long as I come from service and from provided value to anyone. After all, I know the island pretty well. And I'm with the best real estate company in the world. And I thank everybody for teaching me and being there. Thank you.
Thanks, Lucy. Thank you. Okay, so Dan, we're gonna listen to your maps coach story, and then Chris, I want you to close us out with some Cody Gibson golden nuggets, okay?
Yeah, I started my career at Sotheby's in Denver, and KW recruited me to come over and start their luxury division. And I had just finished my best year at Sotheby's, which at that time I thought 15 million was a big deal. And of course, I thought I was a big deal. And so they recruit me and they bring me over, and they said, at the same time, I also brought a colleague of mine over from Sotheby's, Ryan Anderson. And Ryan and I started at the same time. And for all of those who know me and know me well, know that I am fiercely competitive. Like, I really, really hate to lose. And so, Ryan and I come aboard at the same time, and the people who recruited me said, hey, Dan, maybe you want to consider, getting a maps coach or starting a team, it could really help. And I said, well, I don't think of the maps coach things for me, the coach thing, it's just because I was Dan Palomino. You were going to tell me how to run the business. I'd figure out how to do it on my own. So I get there and I noticed that Ryan is slowly like ahead of me, right? He's got a few more listings. He's got a few more closings. He's doing better than me. And about 6 months into this, I noticed that Ryan is now like really kicking my rear. And of course, this upsets me. And I'm thinking, what is he doing? Like, what's he doing different? And so I finally go in and I throw myself on the sword and I say, Ryan, what are you doing that you're kicking my butt? Because I don't like it. And he's like, well, he said, I'm just coming over here. I said, I'm just following the systems and the models that they're telling us. And he says, and I got a maps coach. And so I walk out of there and I got to swallow a whole bunch of humble pie. And I walk into Tony's office, who's my team leader. And I said, okay, I'll take a maps coach, but only under one condition. And he's like, okay, what's that? I said, I'm only staying with him for 1 year. Just 1 year. And when that 1 year's up, I am done. I am out. Don't try to convince me past a year. So he gives me the maps coach, a guy named Steve Kaut out of Atlanta, Georgia. Great coach, had tremendous success with the Kaut team in Atlanta. And I hated it so much that I stayed with Steve for 5 years. And Steve was tremendous. And what I learned out of that was that I don't have to go through this with the Dan Palomino trial and error method. I found out that I could just literally pick up the phone and I could probably have the answer from Steve in about 30 seconds. And I didn't have to reinvent the wheel. Steve was talking with hundreds of agents all over the country who were already telling him what was working and what wasn't working. And all I had to do was tap into Steve and say, Steve, how do I do this? How do I structure this? What's my next move? How do I, and Steve would tell me. And what would take me 3 to 4 months of figuring out and working and trial and error on my own, I was able to get answers in about 30 seconds with a phone call to Steve. And so what it did for me is it accelerated my business so unbelievably quickly. And of course, the main objective was to beat Ryan, and I did.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. That's great. We should tell everybody that story in the company so they can get MAPS coaches because that would help. Moksha, hello. Do you want to unmute? Did you want to share?
This
Oh.
question is actually for Dan. So Dan, I know you were saying that you decided that you wanted people to come to you rather than you going after leads, essentially.
Mhm.
I can relate to that a lot, actually. And to be honest, I really enjoyed this COVID year because it was an excuse for me to recharge my batteries. But I know that I have to get back in the game again. And I love the idea of that. And I was wondering, and I'm so sorry if I'm asking you to reiterate something, but exactly how did you do that? I know you said you made this transition over 3 years. It was a little painful. You had to, turn off Zillow. I've turned off Zillow a while ago. Can't deal with Zillow. But I'm just curious, was it that nudging, calling, newsletter sort of thing, or was there more to it? Because it can take a long time just for all of those follow-ups to happen.
Yeah, great question. Thanks for that. We sat down together as a team and we came up with a system and a plan. And the plan was, if you've been around Keller Williams for any period of time, you would have heard Gary talk about a 36 touch campaign. And the number of touches have changed over the years. And the idea behind the 36 touch campaign is, how are you going to touch your clients or your database 36 times a year? But we wanted to take it up a notch. We didn't want it to just be, okay, we're going to send them 12 newsletters once a month, right? And call that a touch. We kind of feel like that's a given. Like you have to do that. That's like getting up in the morning and getting dressed. But we wanted to figure out, well, what could it be that would be over and above those touches? What would it be to, communicate with them on a really, really high level? And so we actually started the process through the events. And we decided to schedule our events first, and then have all of our touches then circle around the events. And I'll give you an example. We decided that in February, people needed to go do something because you're stuck inside with the snow. And so that's where we did our bowling alley event. And we rented out a bowling alley and had invited all of our clients and their kids to come eat pizza and bowl and have fun. In the summer, we always did our barbecue event. And the barbecue event, we usually rented out the same pavilion in Highlands Ranch, and we would do a different theme every year. One year it was Texas barbecue, one year it was Hawaiian luau, and we would dress up. And by the way, the most popular thing at the barbecue was the dunk tank. We rented a dunk tank. I sat in the dunk tank, and my clients poured out in huge numbers to dunk me. But we would do that at the event. And then the third event that we did every year was we did a charity event as a team, right? The Colorado Dream House team would do a charity event. And actually, to be honest with you, the charity event was the most successful event. It drove more sales than the other two events. That wasn't even the purpose. It was just a side note of the charity event. And so as a group, we decided one year to do Coats for Colorado. And we asked all of our clients to either come to the office and drop off coats, or more importantly, we would go to their home and pick up the coats. Or we would do a food drive for a particular food pantry, Food Bank of the Rockies, or something like that. And when we would do a charity event, we would constantly be doing what Chris and Don are talking about, which is we would be calling our database, right? We would be saying, hey, did you get our email? Did you get our notice? Did you get our mailing about such and such? Can you help us for Coats for Colorado or something like that? And so that's what I mean. We set the events, and then the touches kind of filled in around the events. Our last event that we would do every year is we would do something big for Christmas. And we would deliver pies, and we would deliver Christmas calendars, and everything had a card. We would deliver stockings. So we built the business around these 4 events. And I mean, literally, I didn't have to lead generate after that. Once we got that system up and running and really moving, we didn't have to lead generate. People just gave us business over and over and over again.
Great, great events. I love it. And then touches around that. Thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you for asking the question.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate
absolutely.
that.
Okay, Chris, take it away. And then it looks like Crystal, you said you have a couple of Cody ones too. So if Chris misses something, then you can chime in on that.
I've got quite a few. So Crystal, if you want to share the ones you have, and then I'll follow up after you.
Crystal, can you chat with us and tell us the ones that you have from Cody Gibson?
Yes, I got unmuted there.
Great.
Yeah, I enjoyed that, as well as I have enjoyed this whole event we're having right now. It makes me know I need to go back and review some of the things I wasn't able to take in. But anyway, one of the things Cody mentioned in his hacks was work in chunks, like morning to mid-morning and then mid to noon and like that. You might even have an evening one that you throw in. I liked when he said clients know when they say no, it could really just mean maybe if you gave them more information.
Mm.
And so he said, ask big questions. Number of questions equals the height of income. So he was also talking about stacking your habits and maybe doing something before you brush your teeth and drink your coffee and all that sort of thing. He even suggested putting little notes around, which I did in various places. And I think one of the quotes that I wrote down was that Gary had said at some time, "I'm not busy, I'm effective." So that, pointing out there's a difference between busy work and getting the job done. And I won't go any further than this next one. He said something about having accountability hacks. Like every day if he doesn't do his 20 calls, then he doesn't get to watch his favorite TV show. Double down on that so he can watch his show. That's all I have for now.
That's great. Thank you. Those are really good. I wrote all of them down. I like them. Chris.
Okay. The one that really kind of follows up on Dan, he has the rule between 3 and 5. And this rule basically says that you have multiple lead generation sources, whether it's, past clients, database, farming, expireds, whatever your, top 3 lead generations are, you should always have 2 that you are trying to nurture to take the place of the top 3. And he said everybody has, in some essence, they may have 10 different lead sources, but he did an analogy about a 5-legged chair. And obviously a 5-legged chair has huge, stability. And basically it's important to have that stability. It's vital to have 3. A 1-legged chair is a pogo stick. So, it's like try to have 3 core lead generation, forms, and out of all the rest, 2 that have the potential to jump into the top 3 over time. So I thought that was pretty neat. Again, just to build on Crystal, his stacking habit was just anything you do during the day. I thought it was just really neat. If every time you go to the kitchen and during the day and you get a glass of water, text somebody, text a client, something that is already habitual for you, add something small to it that is some type of lead generation source. So I just thought that was, very interesting. The one thing that I really liked about he talked about, and this is again, you know, all of us have probably some aspiration to work out. And he said, you know, a workout hack for him is to try to do a 10-minute workout. And even if you can't do the 10-minute, you know, do the stairs, park the farthest from the store. But he said, if you can do a 10-minute hack 4 days a week, that's the equivalent, you know, of a 60-minute workout 1 day a week. So instead of doing next to nothing, try to do it in smaller increments and build up from that standpoint. One hack that, again, and I'd never heard something like this before, probably because I'm not a book reader, but I do listen to audiobooks. But he said one of his ways of really getting some core content out of a book, he said he reads the first chapter, the last chapter, and the first page of every chapter in a book. And then he goes in onto YouTube, he puts the book's name in and asks, you know, for, you know, the report on that book or a synopsis or key points. And he said, you'll get a 6 to 7 minute video with notes and charts and everything else. And in a matter of 30 to 40 minutes, you will get a huge percentage of the content out of a book versus reading the book from front to back. I just thought that was, you know,
That's
just
a
a
good
really,
one. I probably should do that one.
really interesting way,
Real
you know,
long.
to get a book. And then I'll end with one that he calls the 1 + 1 can't equal 2. And this is all about, if you're going after a lead that is one sale, you're always going to have to go after a new one lead that is a sale. He said, try to go after leads that are a higher ratio of 1 + 1 = 2. So go after like the HR director of, you know, a property if you're looking to get into the relocation business, or, you know, try to find investors that may be purchasing 2 or 3 properties, you know. And again, there are so many different lead sources that aren't a 1-to-1 ratio, they're a 1-to-1+ ratio. So again, you're just building the business. I thought that was, you know, very insightful.
That's really good. That's a great one too. Thank you, Chris. Those were awesome. So lastly, about the Cliff Note thing for the book too, another option. So Colette introduced me and several other people to an app called Blinkist. And it's kind of like Cliff Notes used to be, where you can listen to a whole book in a really short time frame. Like it gives you basically what the gist of the book. For me, it was a little too short. I was listening to stuff and I like to read the book and highlight and make notes. So it was a little too short, although depending on the book, it might be really valuable. A lot of people swear by it and love it. So there's another little hack for you.
Can you put that in the chat?
What's that? Oh, Blinkist?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's Blinkist. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. All right, who else? Is there anything else before we wrap up, you guys? There was a lot of incredible content. I mean, I took a bunch of notes. Fantastic. I did not get to watch the Cody Gibson thing. And I actually missed Tim Ferriss because I was on a leadership thing setting it up during Mega Camp. And that was during Tim Ferriss. So I am definitely going to go back and watch that one. And I know Tim Ferriss, one of the books that made him super popular, he has a lot of great books, but it's the 4-Hour Workweek, right? That's him. 4-Hour Workweek, I believe.
Correct.
Okay, you guys, anything else before we sign off? I want to thank you guys, everybody, for participating and being here and bringing your notes and contributing. This video will also be sent out, so a lot more people will watch it than we're here, but we have, you know, a great group. Thank you for those of you who asked questions and showed your faces and were engaged. And I'm glad it sounds like everybody got a lot from each other. So we should do this more often, right? Our mastermind. Thank you guys. Anything else? All right. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And I'll see you soon.
Thanks,
Okay, bye.
everybody.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Weekend.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.